Today, I guess I'm doing a review of 10th edition so far. It's going to be a lot of waffle, so I'm going to put the chapters down on the timeline. If you want to just skip to the bit that's relevant to you, please go ahead. 2 disclaimers before we get into it. The first one is that 10th edition has been out for 5 months. So everything that I say is definitely liable to change in the next couple of months, years, as 10th edition develops and continues. And the second disclaimer is that I was nowhere to be found during 6th, 7th, or 8th edition. So my experience is purely coming from 4th, 5th, long break, back in at 9th, and now 10th. The first thing I want to talk about is the launch of 10th edition. And talking about this, I'm going to touch on the Leviathan launch, the new website, and the 40k app. I know that the website wasn't updated for the launch, it was much more recent. I'm just going to touch on it briefly. I think that it was a fantastic idea to bring together the Games Workshop and Forge World stuff, put them in one place. Really smart, makes sense. In almost every other aspect, the old website was better. This one just feels really hard to navigate. Unless you know exactly what you're looking for, it feels like it's hard to find stuff. Visually, I feel like the old one was a little bit dated, but it worked. And the new one kind of, I don't know. I'm not a fan. Getting that out the way, we can move on to the 40k app. It's got a great search function, and it's easy to kind of find the stuff that you need, even if the UI is a little bit confusing. I do understand why, obviously, as codexes are coming out, they're locking the rules behind the paywall of buying the codex. It's something they've always done, but I think that most of us massively appreciated when the indexes dropped at the start of the edition, and all of our rules are available online. For me personally, if the rules are free on the 40k app, I'm going to be using the 40k app. As soon as they put up a paywall, I'm going to be going to Wahapedia, I'm going to be going to Battlescribe, literally anything else. I might still keep the app for quick referencing the core rules, because those are still going to be available, but in terms of faction stuff and list building, I'll be straight onto Battlescribe. Getting onto something a little bit more positive, Leviathan, I think, was a massive success. The last launch box I saw was 9th edition, when we were all in the middle of lockdown, in the middle of a pandemic, and that one didn't go too well. It seems like Games Workshop had a massively better time meeting demand and actually manufacturing enough boxes to satisfy everybody. I went to Element Games a couple of weeks ago with a friend, and as I walked through their store, they still had a stack about this high. That's not even on camera. This high of Leviathan boxes. There's still plenty out there, which just shows that if you make enough of the product, not even scalpers are going to be able to ruin it for you. I think it was a fantastic box to launch the edition with. As usual, the value was ridiculous. Models I will get into in a separate segment, so I will leave all of that for now. Despite my criticisms of the app and of the website, I have to say that the launch of 10th felt very smooth. It hasn't taken me or my friends that long to get into the swing of the 10th edition rules. And to be honest, I'm just really enjoying playing the game right now. So, models. How have they been doing so far for models? So starting with Leviathan, as a Space Marine fan, couldn't be happier. We got some stuff that we were absolutely desperate for. I've been saying to a friend of mine who plays Salamanders for the last 2 years since Templars came out in 9th, don't worry, I'm sure you're going to get a squad of Pyroblasters soon enough. And they came! So that is fantastic news. The new Terminator sculpts were obviously always going to go down so well as the Terminator Captain. Sternguard aren't really my cup of tea, but I know that they're massively popular, and again, the sculpts were fantastic. I'm a fan of the Ballistus Dread and the throwback to the old box Nort. Very happy about that. In terms of the Space Marine side of the box, I think they did a fantastic job. Now, where they did an even better job, the Tyranid side of the box. It is always so nice to see factions that aren't Space Marines and aren't Imperial getting massive refreshes and new models at the same time. Everything that they refreshed for Tyranids was bang on. I love when the model doesn't really change very much, but just the level of detail is polished. So in terms of the refreshed Tyranids, excellent, bang on the money. Now the new Tyranids, that was something I was not expecting. They got so much new stuff and all of it looks fantastic, fits with the army. It just makes me very, very happy to see Xenos getting a bit of love. Necron's last edition made me start playing Necrons. I always wanted to as a kid, but never really got round to it. So that was fantastic. And for them to do it again, arguably even better this time round. Just a really, really nice thing to see. And then of course you can't drop all of the new Tyranid stuff in Leviathan followed by a second wave of new Tyranid stuff without dropping a second wave of Space Marine stuff. So hooray hooray, we got new Space Marines. The multi-part Terminator kit is on my Christmas list. Stern Guard look fantastic with all the weapon options. The Assault Intercessors, I mean, I've literally just built some of my own. And although I don't think the unit is something that I would really want to run, the Company Heroes box is absolutely gorgeous, and it is so nice to see the old kind of Command Squad vibe come back together for Primaris this edition. We just had the AdMech and Necron stuff go up for pre-order this weekend, so let's talk about them, I guess. The AdMech Tallboy, I'm going to call him a Tallboy forever because Dishonored is a fantastic game. The AdMech Tallboy is really, really cool. I think he's a bit goofy, but I like him. I do understand the complaints that I've seen online. He looks very fragile. A bird just flew into my window. Okay, he's fine. Where were we? Tallboy. Yeah, he looks very fragile, but I do like his vibe, so I don't know. If I was collecting AdMech, maybe I'd get one or two. It always does feel a shame when two books come out at the same time and one of them gets one model and the other get a whole bunch. So fortunately, AdMech, I'm sorry. However, Necrons, let's go boys. When I saw the new Stormlord model, there's something about it for me. He's lost a little bit of the character that the Finecast model had. I think for me it's probably the gauntlet isn't as oversized and stupid looking, and his face isn't as angular and angry. He looks a lot more like a generic Lord on this new model, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, and I still really love the model. And I know that the kind of person I am, once I get that model and I've built it and I've painted it, I won't even remember the Finecast model. But there is something I just can't quite put my finger on about Imhotep here. Regardless, I think he looks fantastic. I'm going to be getting him soon. As soon as I get back on my Necron painting, I'm going to have Imhotep, I'm pretty sure. Now, the new Overlord, the one with the trans-dimensional beamer thing, I could take or leave him, to be honest. I think his sculpt is fascinating. It's really cool. I could definitely see it as a painting project. Translocation Shroud, that's the one. I think he looks fantastic. I could take him or leave him compared to the Indomitus Overlord, to be completely honest. I've already got a whole bunch of Overlords. I don't really feel like I need another one. And I don't feel like you need that model to represent the Translocation Shroud rules on the table either. You know, as long as you say, hey, I've got this Overlord, I'm using the Translocation Shroud rules, I feel like that's absolutely fine. And then, as well for the Necrons, Orokin looks unreal. I was absolutely certain we were going to get Trazyn at the same time as Orokin, and I mean, there's still time. The Black Library previews are coming up soon, so potentially we might get Trazyn then. I just think it is very strange for them to release the book, which I assume has the old Finecast Trazyn picture in the book, to then go and release the new model. I don't know. We'll have to kind of see how that pans out. Trazyn might not get anything during the Black Library previews. That might be an option as well. There might just be nothing, which is fine. But Orokin's had the biggest glow up, and I'm actually excited to get my hands on him. It wasn't a character I was ever interested in, even after listening to The Infinite and Divine, which is fantastic. Everybody knows it's fantastic. Even after listening to that book, I wasn't that interested in getting either of the characters to paint up. But if Trazyn comes out and he looks as good as Orokin does, I'll have to buy them both, and I'll have to paint them, and they'll have to sit together and be best friends on my shelf for the rest of time. And then most recently, we've got the Dark Angel previews. This, you can see the smile on my face. Deathwing Knights, one of my favorite kits ever when that first came out. So to see them refreshed and looking so good, honestly, it's going to be a struggle not to buy that kit as soon as it's out. The Asmodai model as well. Now, if you watched the video I did with Dave from Blister Minis, which is just up there, we both said that we wanted Asmodai to die off this edition and for Dark Angels to get Saffon back as the Grand Master of the Dark Angels Chaplains. That's clearly not happening. Asmodai has been written about so extensively that I don't think they can ever kill him off. But I gotta say, despite me not loving his character, the model is nice enough that I will have to pick it up at some point. And if I'm gonna own the model, I'm probably gonna play with the model. And like I said before, I am the kind of person that once I've got the model and I've built it and I've painted it, I'm just gonna like him more. Which makes me upset because I don't like him right now. But it is what it is. I will learn to love Asmodai, I suppose. I'm gonna have to. I wasn't going to talk about Horus Heresy or any of the other games associated with 40k, but I do just have to touch on the new Kill Team kit for the Night Lords, because Night Lords are my favourite looking Chaos Space Marine Legion, and they're a project that I had shelved ages ago. I've got a couple of them that I planned to not paint for years, because as soon as I start painting them, I start buying more. So the idea was to put them on the shelf, not touch them, finish everything else I've got to do, and then at some point have some boys in Midnight Clad. I don't know how well I'm going to do with that now. Now that Kill Team's been shown off, the upgrades are so nice. It's going to be a real struggle. It's going to be a real struggle, but I am very impressed. I hope we keep getting upgrades for the Space Marine Legions in that vein that look that good. Next, I want to talk about rules. So when the edition launched, we all got indexes. It was free. Fantastic. I mean, it wasn't super well balanced, so maybe not fantastic, but rules for free. Everyone likes rules for free. It is a terrible shame, like I said before, that as the codexes come out, the rules get scrapped on the 40k app. That is going to push people like me to other places where we can get our rules online for free. And the other thing is that we keep having this thing where codexes come out and they've got rules printed in them, and within a week or two there's new points values online to download. I'm very glad that they are keeping that updated online, and that is a free resource we have. That is fantastic. It is just a shame that so much paper is being printed and being made redundant basically immediately. I understand why it happens, because they're printing these books months in advance. But at this point, it almost makes more sense to just not include points in the book, maybe, and just have them available online, updated as often as they can. Something this edition that really irked me as well is that in 9th, they decided to make a load of very popular Heresy kits. Plastic, which is fantastic. People who play Heresy can get their Contemptor Dreads and their Leviathan Dreads and whatever else on the table in plastic, more cheaply, more affordable, and they don't have to deal with resin. That is great. However, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people like me who are like, oh my god, plastic Contemptors. I'll have one of those. I got a plastic Contemptor. I really love it. I've built it as a Relic Contemptor. Relic Contemptor's now Legends. A lot of stuff is now Legends that was available to us last edition. And I don't play tournaments. I only play casually with friends. So it doesn't really matter as long as they're happy to have Legends, but it's a shame for those people who would try and take those units to tournaments and competitive play. And the final thing I want to touch on is the whole data sheets reflecting the kit thing. I'm someone who really loves the kit bash and convert models. I just put out an Iron Hands Captain video last week. It's up there if you want to watch it. And the reason I love it so much is because you can get so much character and personality in making things your own, making them unique. You want to have a Space Marine Smash Captain with a Thunder Hammer, off you go and do it. That was always a thing we could do until now. The fact that they're now retroactively limiting our units by what comes in the box is a real pain. Personally, I've noticed it hardest on Drakari. In the past, it was always nice to take a special weapon for each 5 Cabal warriors you had in a squad, which meant you could have 2 blasters, and then you could throw in a Dark Lance as well. Now, you got to have a Dark Lance, a Splinter Cannon, a Shredder, and a Blaster. I mean, it's cool. It's cool that I can take all those weapons in a squad, but I just want all of my Darklight weapons. Let me have all those blasters. I modeled so many warriors to have all these blasters so they could fit in their squads, and now I can't even put half of them on the table anymore. So yeah, it is a shame that this is the route they're going. And unfortunately, I feel like this affects characters the most, where characters who used to be really customizable just on anymore. They'll have 2, maybe 3 weapon options if you're lucky. At the very least, I suppose the kits that are coming out now look so good and are posed so well that for the most part, you know, I'm happy with the kits that are coming out. Okay, let's finish up with some hopes for the future of 10th edition and what might be coming next. First and foremost, a Drukhari refresh, please. A lot of the Drukhari range, if you don't know, was Finecast from like 5th edition or whenever they got rebooted 10, 12 years ago. Most, if not all of the Finecast stuff is gone. You can't buy it, and it's left the army with this gaping hole because they just don't have very many kits. I think that Cabal, Witches, and Racks all still look fantastic, however many years it's been since they were released. They don't need updating, but all of the stuff that we lost from Finecast needs to come into plastic. And to be honest, for me, that's a minimum. If they did that, I would be happy. I would have all the same units that were available in 9th edition, which, you know, it's enough to make an army, it's enough to have choices. But I think in general, Drukhari are one of the armies that need more new kits and more new units, because compared to the other things that I play, the choice, there just really isn't a huge amount of choice. Without even comparing Drukhari to Space Marines, who obviously have more data sheets than anybody, comparing these guys to Death Guard and Necrons, there's just so few units that you can actually pick from. So what I would really love to see this edition is, at minimum, those Finecast models brought back into plastic, and ideally a couple of extra things. But if that has to wait for 11th edition, I'm okay with that. I'll wait for 11th edition when we have Drukhari versus Space Marines as the 11th edition launch box, and I get all the new goodies. That's fine by me. Also, on a personal note, Dark Angels kits. We know that we've got Asmodai on the way. We know we have Deathwing Knights. A lot of us have probably heard the rumors that Belial is on his way, and we've got an upgrade sprue for the new Terminators so that we get Dark Angels flavored multi-pose Terminators. I am desperate for robed Primaris with hoods. I have been since I got back into the hobby. And I am almost more desperate for Ezekiel to have a plastic model. Ezekiel was always one of my favorite characters when I was a kid. I thought he was so cool looking, and I thought his history was badass. If we lose him because he's Finecast and he never kind of comes back, I will be very upset. But this is potentially the time when it will happen. So I've got my fingers crossed. Really hoping we don't lose him this time round. But more than that, I'm hoping that they do actually give him a new model that looks as good as Asmodai's, because Asmodai and Ezekiel coming out side by side, that would be very nice. Additionally, I'm still really hoping for Craft World Eldar to get some love. They're not an army I collect, but we all know the state of Hawks and Spiders right now. I don't think I need to say anything else. And finally, I am really hoping that this is the edition that we get to see Emperor's Children. I know that World Eaters pretty much only just came out. It feels like it was a few months ago, but they've been around a little while now. Emperor's Children are obviously the last dedicated to a Chaos God legion of Chaos Space Marines that we're waiting for. And they're one that I could see myself painting, which is a terrible shame for me and my wallet. But Emperor's Children would be something I'd really like to see. There's been a lot of speculation about the redacted picture in the Codex roadmap. A lot of people seem to think that it is Emperor's Children. I personally don't think we're going to see Emperor's Children that early. We only just had World Eaters at the tail end of 9th. I suspect if we get Emperor's Children this edition, it's going to be in another year or two towards the end of 10th edition. There are so many armies right now that still need the Codex, and I imagine that they will prioritize those ahead of a new release like Emperor's Children, especially when we've just had such a big refresh for Tyranids. We're getting a whole bunch of stuff for Dark Angels, and I've heard rumors that we're getting stuff for Tau. To me, it just doesn't really make sense that they would give us so much new stuff in such a short span of time, and then they would drop Emperor's Children on us like an absolute bomb so early into the edition. I think we're going to have to wait, and that's fine by me. I still think we're going to get them this edition. I know this has basically just been me rambling for quite a while, but I have a lot of thoughts bouncing around in my head all the time, and I wanted to get them out and make this video. If you got this far through, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching it. I also want to say thank you so much for the support on the Iron Hands Kit Bash video. I could not believe the amount of kind comments and things that people were saying on there. So thank you so much. We're going to have a little bit of a painting challenge next week, and then hopefully soon another conversion like the Iron Hands one in a couple of weeks' time. Thinking some Imperial Fists might be a good way to go. Wherever you are, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again next time.